A large storm will be coming to the United States next week, and this will bring the potential for more snowfall and maybe even a winter storm. In addition to that, another Arctic blast will be coming to the United States next week, bringing the potential for very cold weather, and we even could see the return of severe weather sometime next week. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next 7 to 10 days, and we'll begin with what's happening across the country this morning. And to begin with, we have an atmospheric river that is currently penetrating showers and even some snow showers into areas like the Pacific Northwest this morning. This is actually what's going to lead to a little winter storm back over in the northern plains and the upper Midwest as we go into tonight and tomorrow. And we'll also be watching for this band of moisture back over here near Wisconsin to bring some snow to areas like the Northeast and as well as the Great Lakes tonight into tomorrow. And we'll talk more about that here in just a few minutes, but that'll also bring some snow showers to many areas in the Midwest and the Northeast. We also have a stream of Pacific Ocean moisture that is coming out of areas near Mexico. This is actually moving into Texas and Louisiana, and this is going to pose the potential for some heavy rainfall as we go into Monday and Tuesday, and eventually we are going to see a huge storm build up out of this back over on the eastern side of the United States. And it is also quite cold across much of the country right now. Wind chills are currently down into the teens and even some areas single digits back over in the Northeast, even into the low 30s back over in northern Florida. As we eventually go later into this afternoon and eventually into tomorrow, things are going to start to improve again, but eventually as we go into the middle of next week, we are going to see another plume of Arctic air move right into the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, and things are going to get very cold once again. So what does that actually look like? Well, for right now, as we go into Sunday, things are going to start to warm back up again, above average temperatures for much of the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. Eventually, as we go into Monday into Tuesday, that warm air will continue to move more to the east as a trough begins to move more to the east as well. Eventually, as this trough amplifies, we are going to get a strong northerly and northwesterly wind, and you're going to see this little light area blue turn into a big blob of darker blue as we go eventually into Tuesday into Wednesday. Look at this large Arctic air mass that's going to be moving into areas like the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, with the worst of this cold impacting areas in the Midwest on Wednesday. Many areas could actually get close to record-breaking cold temperatures. As we go into Thursday morning, this will eventually move into the Northeast and even down into areas like Florida, where there will be a cold front, and eventually by Friday into Saturday, it eventually moves out. Now, the good news with this particular shot of cold air is that it's going to be much faster than the cold shot of air that we saw last week. So this one is going to only last for probably 2 or 3 days, and then we'll warm right back up again by next weekend, compared to the one that we've been dealing with for 5 to 7 days now. It's been a long-term sort of cold blast. All right, let's talk more about what's coming in terms of snowfall, maybe even a winter storm, severe weather potential for flooding rain. We're going to break down all of that here on the future radar for the next few days. Beginning with today, we have a little clipper system that is moving through Canada and the upper Midwest and as well as the northern Great Lakes region. This will move into New England as we go into tonight and as well as much of the Northeast, including New York. So be ready for the potential for some snowfall. Back over in the Pacific Northwest, a relatively weak atmospheric river will bring some more snow showers and rain tonight and eventually into tomorrow. Eventually, as we go into Sunday into Monday, this is where things honestly get very interesting from a meteorology standpoint. We are going to have this area of moisture back over in the southern plains near the lower Mississippi Valley. We're also going to have a winter storm developing back over in the northern plains. Now, this is where things get interesting. As we go into Monday into Tuesday, this is all going to kind of move towards each other, and eventually as we get closer to Tuesday into Wednesday, this is eventually going to become a pretty large storm in nature. So this is what it looks like as we go into Monday. Showers and storms continue back over in the southeast, mostly going to be heavy rainfall. I don't really expect much in terms of severe weather as we go into Monday, but I wouldn't rule out some isolated severe weather. Snow continues back over in the northern plains and the upper Midwest, heavy at times back over in the upper peninsula of Michigan. As we go into Monday into Tuesday, this eventually moves into the Northeast, and you're probably thinking this doesn't look very impressive, right? Well, it gets more impressive. As we go into late Tuesday into Wednesday, we're eventually going to see a really nice stream of moisture coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, a trough back over north of the Great Lakes, and eventually as we go into Tuesday night into Wednesday, this turns into a relatively large storm along the east coast of the United States. Now, here's really where the question mark is. When will this all start to build up and intensify? Because if it's this late, which the GFS model is showing this intensifying relatively late, then any sort of severe weather would be offshore more than likely. This is all basically severe weather just east there of the Carolinas. Also, if it does end up developing late like the GFS model showing, we could get a really impressive shot of heavy snowfall back over in the Northeast, and that could actually lead to several inches of snowfall snowfall, even though it would be a pretty quick moving system. Nonetheless, I do think that we are going to see, at the bare minimum, an Arctic blast out of this. The questions that do remain is how much snow, and also will we see any severe weather. Those are the two things that are still relatively uncertain. It's going to depend on the evolution here of this storm forming, but it is a pretty large storm. It looks like this might just be a hair late, though, on developing into something. Again, if this was even just about 100 miles further west, we would be probably talking about at least some elevated risk for severe weather in the southeast United States. Now, one thing that this is going to bring, no matter how this evolves, is the amount of rain. We are going to see some significant rainfall out of this, especially across the southeast, where several areas will pick up anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of rain over the span of 4 to 5 days. Some isolated spots could easily be as high as a half a foot of rain by the time this is all said and done. And I also want to show you the European model with this particular storm. It shows a very similar scenario where this is just a split storm essentially as we go into Tuesday, but it eventually combines into one large storm system by Wednesday. So right now the European model is showing something very similar, where heavy rainfall and even some isolated severe weather would be possible across the east coast of the United States, and then the potential for a winter storm would exist in the northeast, but depending on where this trough does position will determine where this snow ends up falling. Again, if the trough is a bit further south and east, we could see some sort of nor'easter take place, so definitely something to keep a close eye on, especially since we are currently only about 4 or 5 days out from this event actually happening. And here's the instability, just to kind of give you an idea of if we'll see any severe weather. Right now, Monday into Tuesday would be really the 2 days to watch for some isolated severe weather near the Gulf Coast. As we go into Wednesday, that's where things do get a little bit more tricky, but there will be plenty of instability for some fish severe weather back over east of the Carolinas, so that's an area that we'll be watching for some fish nados. Definitely something to watch for. If you know any fish out there, definitely make sure to let them know that there is a chance for some fish nados on Wednesday. Now, over in the northeast, we got a little bit of a different story here over the next few days. We are going to see some snowfall as we go into tonight and eventually into tomorrow morning. A little Alberta Clipper system will be moving through, bringing some light to moderate snowfall to areas like New York and Pennsylvania by the evening hours and eventually into the overnight hours. Quick moving system will move across much of central and northern New England, dumping some snowfall, but it's going to be pretty quick, so we're not expecting any sort of significant accumulation. However, the main area that we'll be watching for any significant accumulation will be in upstate New York, where several areas will be between 6 to 12 inches of snowfall. Most of northern New England will see anywhere from 1 to maybe 3 to 4 inches of snowfall. Higher elevations will pick up somewhere between about 5 to 8 inches of snowfall when this is all said and done. Now, in terms of total snowfall accumulation between now all the way through Wednesday of next week, the majority of snow that we are expecting will be mostly confined to Canada and the very far northern tier of the United States. Northeast is again one of the areas that will be more of a wild card. We could see some significant snowfall next week. We also might just see basically nothing, so just an area to watch for. And also back over in the Pacific Northwest and the Rocky Mountains, plenty of snow will continue to fall in the higher elevations of the United States. And then if you dare to go any further on the GFS model closer to Christmas, it doesn't really show much snowfall right now for most of the United States. Now, with that said, this is obviously still 1 to 2 weeks out. Things are definitely going to change with the computer models, so make sure to subscribe down below. We'll keep you posted with the latest with anything that does develop here over the next couple of weeks. Also, just a quick reminder, this is one of your last days to get any sort of merch delivered to you, guaranteed before Christmas on shopmaxvelocity.net. It is the top link in the description below. We have plenty of collections, including our Drunknado line, as well as our Happy Holidays collection. Definitely recommend you check it out at shopmaxvelocity.net.